Hello, how is everybody doing there? So, welcome to All Mixed Fruit Juice, the curtain raiser episode. Finally, we're here, and I'm really thankful to Art of Living OMR for allowing me to host the show on their page. And this is the curtain raiser episode, the beginning of the first season, the first episode, and we are very lucky to do this episode with somebody very close and somebody whom I share a great relationship with. And so a lot of people have been asking me, what is all mixed fruit juice? So, different fruits have different tastes and different flavors. And life is very much like that, right? Different flavors, different tastes, different emotions, and different things in life. So I thought we should bring all of this into, a single place, probably talk about different things we appreciate in life, like people, travel, food, spirituality, books, coffee, and many things. All these are different fruits of our life, and making a juice and sipping it is such a nice thing to do. So, all mixed fruit juice essentially celebrates these beautiful flavors of life, and this is our first season and our first episode. I'm very lucky to have a very special guest. He's my senior at college, uh, my neighbor in Chennai, and somebody I share a very deep and a very intimate relationship with. I'm in conversation today with Sanjay Radhakrishnan, a entrepreneur and a digital leader. Sanjay is a graduate of BITS Pilani and has worked over 25 years, most of the lion's share with Cognizant in the senior leadership, then has been with his own firm and is also a consultant with many leading firms. An active Art of Living faculty, he is also the leader for Tamil Nadu's Art of Living initiatives. Without any further welcome, I'm very happy to welcome Sanjay Radhakrishnan on the show. Hello,
Good
Sanjay.
evening.
Thank you so much for joining and accepting.
Thank you. Good evening, everybody. Good evening, Surya, and congratulations on all mixed fruit juice on your first episode. And
Thank you.
very grateful that you thought of me to have this conversation. So looking forward to it.
Yes, absolutely. So, the mandatory question during these question times: how are you?
I'm doing very well at home. Actually, at my parents' place now. I'm really enjoying myself for the last few weeks. Obviously, we're taking all the precautions as much as we can. Um, so doing well so far, so good. Been following the news, obviously, and following all the guidelines. We are in a lockdown in Chennai, as you know, right now. So hoping that we'll hear something soon about the lockdown from the Tamil Nadu government.
Yeah. So it's almost 3 months since Tamil Nadu has been locked down, and considering the situations have been extremely scary in the southern state, right?
Mhm.
Um, it's been a day to day. I'll take every day at a time. It was like that kind of a situation, right, for you people.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. So I feel like Tamil Nadu is the number one state in testing in all of India. So I think right now the government is doing more than 30,000 tests a day. So yeah, the cases are high, but I also feel like it's because the testing is very high. It's higher than Maharashtra, all the other states, some of the other states as well. So as I said, it's number one in testing, number of tests being done. But I mean, this is a new phenomenon for all of us, so it's very hard to um, sort of conclude one way or the other. But I feel like it's largely because Tamil Nadu is really ahead in terms of testing. So I think we'll see the benefits of this probably in a few weeks from now. I'm hoping that we'll be able to flatten the curve as they say. So, but it's definitely um, some of my friends and family and their friends' family. I've been hearing people getting sick, uh, colleagues and their parents. Some of them passing away. So it's definitely sad, and um, you know, but all we can do is follow the guidelines and follow the what's happening in the world, because pretty much most of the news today is only this.
I know.
Um, and be strong and move forward. That's all we can do.
Exactly. So, which brings us to what I thought would be a great topic to talk about to somebody like you, hitting a reset and beginning new,
Hmm.
right? And
Hmm.
that's something what. And the fun fact about this show, it is totally unscripted. I do not prepare a single question of what I ask on the show. That's the agreement also between us. So that's
Yeah,
what keeps the show natural, which is how life is supposed to be. That's also keeps the show exciting, which is how life is supposed to be. And so
yeah.
that's the agreement, and I'm living up to it. So tell me, so last 90 days at home, what were the interesting things what you did, like what you have not done in your normal life?
Um, I mean, I think it's started off, sort of struggling to get into a routine first, right? I think that was the initial struggle. But then we settled into a routine pretty soon, I would say, at home. My daughters, wife, everybody at home. And the things that I've done, a lot of vessel washing, uh, cleaning the house, sweeping the floors, that sort of thing, right? Helping my wife in the kitchen as much as I can. Although although I have to do a lot more, I think, on that front. Um, one of the things I wanted to do was learn to cook, but I've not been successful at that yet. Reading a lot, actually, reading a lot, um thinking
Any
about
recommendations for us from the reading gems?
um, so right now I'm reading um, about habits, actually. There is this thing called tiny habits. So how do you sort of build tiny habits in life, right? So this is a great time to build tiny habits. And I'm teaching my kids some of that stuff too, whenever they listen to me. So, um, so those are some of the things I've been doing. Of course, connecting with some friends. Um, so and spending time with my parents. Like I said, right, I've not been able to spend time with them since I left for my undergrad to Pilani. That was like, I don't know, ages ago. So getting this kind of time, spending weeks together, um, is very, very meaningful. Very, very meaningful. Of course, spending time with your family, uh, all that stuff, right? So a lot of good things have come out. Uh, so a lot of questions. I've been asking myself some questions as well in
Okay.
this period. So it's a very interesting time. So,
Okay. So yeah, I mean, always it's a great thing to look at the positive side of any situation, because that essentially inspires us to move forward. And it's also important because the good things which come up in life always give us an opportunity to appreciate the benevolence which life consistently tries to give us.
yeah, yeah,
Now
yeah.
I'm talking to you. It's about 25 years for you in the industry. You started as an entry level person in Cognizant, and today you've built your own firm. You've worked with a plethora of people.
Hmm.
So when you talk about hitting a reset button and try to do something from the scratch, what is the fundamental idea of making a beginning?
Yeah, I think, look, this is definitely a big crisis, what we are going through. But what I would say is, every crisis, and we've all gone through crises, right? Maybe not this one, which we're all going through right now, but in our journey in life, we've all gone through crisis, right? So whether it's a professional crisis or whether it's a personal crisis, um, we've all gone through that, right? And each crisis really helps us um, question some of the more fundamental assumptions that we have operated with, right? So I remember when I was transitioning from a technical person as an engineer to manager, trying to manage people. That was a sort of a crisis for me, basically, a professional crisis, because I did not know how to do that very well. I knew how to engineer things, troubleshoot issues, etc. Um, I'm talking, 20 years back, right? So um, that was a crisis, and I failed a lot. It made me question things, right? The routine stuff that I used to do when it was not working. You question the routine stuff that you do, basically. So so what I've experienced is this crisis gives you that opportunity to learn very, very fast in a very short period of time. So to me, a reset is about questioning some of those assumptions that you've operated with, right? And trying to make a new beginning. Now, this doesn't mean that you're going to make a new beginning in all aspects of your life, but in a certain aspect of your life which you're struggling with, you're going to identify some of those deeply held assumptions that have worked for you, right? And this crisis basically surfaces those assumptions, and it surfaces them because you realize it's not working. Something is not working, and you question why it's not working. Then you start to, question that, explore that. Is it really, true? The assumption with which I'm operating, is that really true? I mean, for example, in this crisis, take work from home, for example, right? I mean, we've been talking about work from home for at least maybe 10 years, right? In the industry. It is taken now incrementally we've been moving, right? It's not that work from home is a new concept, new idea. It's been there for 10 years. Um, Now, at least 10 years. Now, overnight, we accelerated that whole thing, right? Because we had no choice but to let go of this assumption that, or at least test this assumption. We had no choice, right? We couldn't bring people into the office. So you had no choice but to get everybody to work from home. And now we are figuring out it's actually not that bad, at least in some industries like IT services, for example, right? Um, where we've been struggling to sort of move in that direction. Now, if you ask yourself, why is that we struggled to move in that direction? It's not because of that we didn't have the resources or a thing, because we didn't really put ourselves in a situation where we were forced to stare at that assumption. Right now, everybody is like, the entire IT services business, it seems like greater than 90% of the employees are working from home now. When the lockdown is not there, then some of them will come back, but I think some of this will stick, right? Some of this will stick. And I think so that is at an industry level, organizational level. I think the same is true for individuals. Like I said, I went through this professional crisis. I was trying to move from one level to another. So to me, at the heart of hitting reset and beginning new are these big assumptions that we hold, or that are holding us, rather. If we are holding them, we can do something about them. But if they are holding us, we don't even realize that they are holding us until some sort of a crisis like this comes about, and we start questioning things. Because in a crisis, you have to operate in a very different way. You can't operate in the same way. That is the nature of a crisis. It makes you uh, think about something new or something different you have to do, because the usual way of working is not working, right?
Right.
So even in the crisis like this, we are finding new ways to not only cope with it, but to work, to add value. I've been chatting with my friends, and um, one of my friends and ex-colleagues, Karthik Vaidyanathan, he had a post on LinkedIn a few days back, asking people for simple things, that this positive things that they've picked up from this crisis, basically from COVID-19 crisis. And people came up with all sorts of things, right? The starting with how they are um, how they are saving a lot of time without the commute, how they are spending time with the family, how they are learning new skills, um, all of those things. So I think that's what this brings about, and I believe some of this will start to stick moving into the future. That is my version of sort of beginning new.
Right. So, when we talk about assumptions, when you talk about principles which define us as people, there's something very interesting which has happened recently. That one of my classmates lost a job. He just lost it
Mhm.
because their company just had to get into a closer. So all of us,
Mhm.
we said, we're going to do this. We're going to set up a WhatsApp group and find opportunities for him and figure out a way. We all took this up because we had enough time during the lockdown. And turns out, day before yesterday, he landed his job offer and he's going to start tomorrow.
Yeah, yeah,
Now,
exactly.
now that is nice to hear because we've been able to help out a person, but there are at least, you know, thousands of people who woke up in the lockdown and have not had jobs in the mainstream IT industry, have because their industry got displaced. This is where value system gets shaken up. Like I believe in
Yep.
that. I'm very loyal to my company, but my loyal company told me, "Thank you very much. Please go home." Or
Yep.
a paper industry was making menu cards all its life, and people decided not to use menus forever because it transmits infection. Value
Yep.
systems essentially get shaken up in these incidents, but we don't have any experience to deal with a pandemic, right? So how do you stick to a value system when they get shaken up?
Yeah, I'm not sure the value systems get shaken up. I think what gets shaken up are these assumptions that we had about security and things like that, right? Where we thought we got our sense of value from, basically, right? So when that gets taken away, say for example, like your friend that you're talking about, a lot of us get our sense of value, so to speak, from our job, right? That we're going to a place, we are doing something useful, and we have a lot of pride associated with that. We have a lot of self-esteem associated with that, right? When that gets taken away, right, in a crisis like this, you start to question, where do you get value from, basically, right? And I think that's a good, I mean, although it sounds terrible for somebody to lose their job, I think it's life way of teaching us to look deeper, to stay grounded, right? uh, how do we stick, how do we stay with reality as the medium, right, rather than living in some assumptions that we have built up in our minds, basically. So when that sort of thing starts to happen, then you question, okay, I thought this is where I was getting my value from, but I'm not, because that has gone away. Now what about that, right? And where do I get my value from now, right? And what is value, basically? So I think the the solutions that you will come up with during those times are very original solutions, because it's really coming from who you are, and what result you want, not about some best practice or somebody gives you some solution, etc., etc. You can learn from all of that stuff, but you truly try to come up with something original, in the sense that it is comes from the inside, right? You
Yeah.
descend from these notions, rational notions that you have in your head, and truly ask some very fundamental questions about life, about yourself, about why you are here, etc., etc. And that's not, so it's true not just in a job, when you lose a job, or try to find one. I mean, even when you lose a loved one, right, in the family, right? And a lot of people um, in India today are losing loved ones, right? Especially the vulnerable people. It shakes you to the core, basically, right? But in general, if you look at an experience like that, it really makes you think about what life is about, right? What you want to do about it, what do you want, how do you want to live your life, etc. So it makes us more real, about reality. It makes us more grounded. There's a certain depth that we suddenly acquire, um, which we otherwise don't think about in normal times, right? We just go about life in a very automatic fashion. But when life shakes you up, to wake you up, I guess, right? To That's when you start asking these questions, and I think that's that's really what uh, growth is about. Actually, if you don't go through those episodes, and unfortunately they are not easy to go through, but uh, it is also an inevitable reality of life, basically, right? It's not like Corona or the COVID-19 is the only crisis we have faced in life. We have faced many crises in life in the past, and coming out of each crisis, we have become stronger, right?
Yeah.
We have learned more about ourselves. We have learned to stay more grounded. We have learned to be more compassionate. We have learned to help each other out, right? I mean, the Chennai floods happened, right, 5 years back, basically.
Yes.
I mean, the sense of community we had during that time was a completely elevated level of community, right? Where we all came together. We had to come together. We got to know each other more intimately, and sort of helped each other out. So you can look at that now. That crisis is past, but when it was happening, it was terrible. But we are all better off as a society because of that, right? Even today, when the rain comes, I go looking for what is the weatherman's Tamil Nadu weatherman's prediction on Facebook, basically, so that I can prepare myself, etc. As 5 years down the line, right? So that's the beginning new part, right? That these crises sort of teach us, helps us grow.
Yeah, so I totally agree with you that crisis teaches you lessons. These kind of wake ups or these kind of jerks which life gives us, they make us better people. In this process of becoming better people, we have to deal with teething problems. Some things which we are not prepared for. It
Mhm.
essentially may be a simple skill gap, or it essentially may be a big, learning curve, or it also may be
Mhm.
something like flipping a belief,
Mhm.
right?
Yes.
So how do we deal with such problems? And it's obviously about convincing ourselves, because a lot of experts have been telling, COVID is not about the social, it's a mind game. COVID is a mind game because it's all about what you believe is going to keep you in that generation. Because if you believe that this is going to be dangerous, you're going to take all the predictions and you're going to stay back. But if you don't believe this is going to be dangerous, then we're going to be in a US kind of situation where they opened up the economy and things like that. Of course, it's debatable, but again, it's about that. It's all about dealing with these kind of problems. But when you're trying to you know deal with situations, how do we deal with problems which you're not prepared for? Essentially, that these challenges which come up, like so something like skill gap, something like being able to figure out a mechanism to get things done with an alternative mechanism. So how do we deal with that?
Somebody recently asked me. Um, it was a client of mine who recently asked me, we've gone through all this VUCA training, leadership training, all that stuff, right? VUCA is volatility, it's, preparing for a world that's very volatile, uh, ambiguous, right? Complex and uncertain. That's the, VUCA abbreviation, right? That's what it stands for. So he said, look, we have put our leaders through all this training and all that stuff, yet we were not prepared to handle this crisis, right? So to me, I see a parallel to what you're, that question and what you're asking, right? Which is, um, so I think you have, so to me, why is that, right? Why is that we've gone through all this training, and is there any training that we can go through or prepare ourselves to go through this kind of uncertainty? And I think there is no framework or method or content that's out there, right? We can learn about VUCA and all this stuff, but unless you put yourself through it, you will not get into this fundamental state, right? Like I said, descending from the head to the heart, right? We're always operating in the head, always automatic, going about our life in an automatic fashion. What the crisis does to you is sort of shakes that up, right? Which means it shakes that automaticity that you have about life. And it tries to make you think, it tries to ground you, it tries to take you to a more fundamental state of mind, right? Now, that's what a crisis does to you. Now, the question is, can we do it without a crisis happening to us?
Yeah.
If you can do that, then I think you can be prepared for sort of the uncertainty. You may not know exactly what to do, but you're mentally, emotionally prepared to engage with that
Yes.
uncertainty, right? And to me, so the question is, if we can't wait for a crisis to train us, right, on this stuff, right? So what can we do, right? To me, it's about trying to find ways to get to that fundamental state
Yes.
of being, right? And 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 our culture is rich with this knowledge, right, with practices that we have that gets us to that fundamental state.
Right.
um, um, the ultimate question that we ask in this culture is, who am I?
Yes.
That is the most fundamental question you can think of. Every other question is just a derivative of that question. So,
Yeah.
and there are practices that are encoded in our culture that takes us to that fundamental state of being.
Yes.
So if we can practice ourselves to put ourselves a little bit every day to get into that fundamental state of being, right, then we have the ability, we are building that ability within ourselves to take on. We don't know what crisis is going to come, but we for sure know it's going to come, right? Then we are able to engage with it in a much more responsible way. So that's what I would say, right? The answers are not outside. There is no uh, certification you can take. There is no content. Nothing is there. The answers are all inside. But for that, we need to prepare ourselves and our environment to get to that fundamental state of being. Then we can handle these uncertainties and things that will inevitably come up in life in a much more productive, responsible way.
Yeah, I mean, in fact, it reminds me of the Kung Fu Panda movie where he opens up the sheet to understand who is the dragon warrior, and he finds nothing.
Yeah,
So I mean,
yeah,
it brings me to that kind of a situation. In fact, it is pretty insightful to understand that you have to face these problems head on, and the strength is totally from inside. And it's about not running away from these problems. It's about swimming through these turbulent waters and figuring out these solutions. It's absolutely such a eye opening insight to perceive. But something more deeper, something more pressing and disturbing, what I wanted to ask, probably this may not be very uh, comfortable on a show which is being watched across Tamil Nadu and probably parts of India right now, is that there have been quite a few suicides during this lockdown. There have been quite a few
yeah,
cases of acute depression. There have been cases of violence. There have been cases of mistrust. There have been cases of um, you know weird mind mechanisms, I would say, that
yeah,
that have really again pushed us aback. Like, I don't want to quote the suicide of Sushant Singh Rajput. There was a 16-year TikTok star who apparently committed suicide 2 days back.
mm,
And
mm.
there are many more cases. Sushant Singh probably is being reported because he's A-listed star in the country and everything else. But there are multiple suicides reported across the country. In fact, that's what even the World Health Organization is reporting. That these inability to deal with these problems is essentially where we are headed. Is also a problem.
Yeah, no, absolutely, absolutely. I think the struggle is in the mind. So unfortunately, see, education is supposed to help you find yourself and what this life is about. That's the purpose of education, right? Like Gurudev Sri Ravi Shankar says, the purpose of education is to find yourself. Everything else can be Googled, basically. So, um, but unfortunately, education today largely is not addressing that, right? There's a lot of information that is getting shared on different topics, science and the art, science and whatever, right? uh, Physics, chemistry, biology, geography, history, all that stuff. But the most important thing that we need to help, um, we need help with is, and that is the purpose of education, is to find ourselves and uh, what this phenomenon that we call as life is about, basically. If we are able to find that and find that grounding, everything else can be managed, right? Information, sharing information about topics is not a big deal right now, thanks largely to this thing called the internet. We can find anything we want. But so the examples that you cited, I mean, these are people, from different walks of life, who achieved a lot of things. But despite that, they are not able to deal with certain aspects of their life, basically, right? It could be emotional, it could be psychological, and depression is known, to happen without any reason, right? You don't need to have a reason, or you don't know what's the reason, but you're struggling to sort of figure that out. So I would say one of the things a crisis does is also to it builds that sense of community, right? I mean,
Yeah.
I'm part of I'm part of a BITS alumni group, right, in Chennai, and I remember a few days back there was conversations about some of our our college mates and their parents getting sick due to
Yeah.
the virus, and there was suddenly talk about how can we help them, right, and their family, basically.
Yeah.
And I remember there was also this conversation about back in college, we had these rediwalas, right, who sell samosas and chaats, things like that. They were struggling on campus because everything is closed down and all that. And one of a few people got together and they actually raised some money for these people. So, so what I'm saying is that a crisis like this also makes you very not just focused about yourself, also focused about others, right? Now, it seems like it's not enough, right? Like these people that are struggling and deciding to sort of end their life. It seems like we need to find ways to reach out to them. But there's a when these things happen, there's a tremendous outpouring of support, all that stuff that happens. But we need to find ways to help them out. But the fundamental problem is to help us understand ourselves and our own minds, right? Nobody has taught that. They're not taught that in we're not taught that at home, not in school, not in college, definitely not at work. And when these crises hits us in life, we struggle with it, and some of us sort of cope with it, some of us really really struggle with it. And so um, this kind of education is very very relevant, right, in today's time, right? Uh, if you take uh, Gurudev Sri Ravi Shankar and the work that he's doing with the art of living, it is tremendous, right? It's such a gift to India and the humanity at large. Um, because many people don't even understand what is meditation, how do you do it, etc., etc., right? So these things help, and today everybody acknowledges these things help, whether it's yoga, meditation, maintaining a calm and balanced state of mind. How do you do that? What is the what is the how I mean, what's the process of doing that, right? You can't just worry yourself out of worry. Then what do you do, right?
Yeah.
Worrying is not going to make it any better. Then how do you get yourself out of worry? So these these things become extremely relevant and important right now, and there's a lot that needs to be done so that we reach more people and help them um, educate ourselves and also help others. Help our community get educated about this. It's extremely important.
Right. That's a very interesting aspect about handling the mind and handling these kind of situations. Is essentially to boils back to the fact that how we are handling ourselves. You know,
Mhm.
that also pulls me back to this very interesting incident. Of VG Siddhartha. Who committed
Mhm.
suicide last year, who revolutionized the way India drank coffee. Technically, And a
Mhm.
little to the past, the suicide of Rob Williams from, a famous
Mhm.
Hollywood actor. But essentially,
Yeah.
if you pull these things together, we see a very interesting thread. It is about the inability to deal with change, or the inability to start from the scratch, right? So how do you think how do you think we can push away this inability? Because humans by default do not accept change. That, we run away from change, and we try to push that change away, but we are bound to perish if we are not accepting that change consistently, which is happening. So what is the most important aspect of change management, or how do we live with this change in general? It's not related to COVID.
Yeah. First of all, so let me push back on that a little bit, right? I don't think we struggle with change. I think we've done it all our lives and we continue to do it, basically. I don't
Okay.
think change is the issue. I mean, as a thing, right? So I think what is an issue is people don't like being changed, right? They like change. I mean, we all change, right? Our bodies change, we change. We have evolved through crisis, we've come through crisis, etc. We learn, we improve, all that we do. I think the problem is, like I said, we get stuck by certain assumptions that hold us back, certain
Yeah.
beliefs that hold us back, right? Oh, I can't do this. I can only do that. Um, Fear of failure, things like that. So there are a lot of assumptions, especially the big assumptions that hold us back. And that's what limits change. It's not change itself is a problem. Anything that fits within that ambit of our assumptions, we are okay to change, actually, right? Anything that aligns with those assumptions, we are okay. Anything that doesn't align with those assumptions, we have a problem, right? And this manifests itself not just in, you know obviously it manifests itself in everyday life. It also is there in, in organizations, right? For example, a lot of organizations want to innovate, get their employees to innovate, but they're not able to. Why is that? Not everybody is able to. Is it because employees don't want to innovate? I don't think so, right? Everybody wants to innovate and all that stuff. It's not that issue. The issue is really about um, helping each person figure out their own way to change, basically, right? And nobody's saying I won't change. What people are saying is I need to figure that out for myself, and that's the process that we need to help with, basically, right? I don't, like I said, we can't just import or try to inject a method into somebody and say, now you do adopt this change. And that's been largely the approach for change, and that's why it's failing, right? So
Yeah.
I used to, my mentor Sukumar used to say this, right? That if somebody doesn't change, the problem is not with them. The problem is with you, who's trying to change them, basically, right?
Okay.
So everything that you see as a resistance to change, there's this term called resistance to change,
Yes.
right? The resistance to change is actually a very intelligent response to a dumb intervention, basically.
Yes.
If somebody is not changing, it's just that your intervention to change them is not very good, basically.
Right.
That means we haven't understood them and their context very well. So it's not that they're resisting change itself, they're resisting the kind of change you are trying to push on them. And that's what I mean by people don't resist change. It's just that it doesn't fit their model of who they are and who they want to be and all of that stuff. Now, unless you work with that, it's very hard to uh, change people. That's why it's
Oh,
hard. That's why we generally see we generally say people don't change. I don't. So, like I said, I don't think that is the problem. The problem is we haven't gone deeper to understand people in order to help them change themselves, basically.
yeah. A deeper understanding of the human community, being able to do a more clear analysis of the requirement, surely also pulls back to a very interesting topic about personal transformation or being able to stay empowered in these kind of situations, right? Um,
Mhm.
and of course, you have been also connecting it to the fact that it has always been a culture of our land, that we've always been equipped with this knowledge. So, can you tell me more about that?
Yeah, look, I think I learned this later in my life, right? So I did not know about this, but thanks to my association with the art of living and to Gurudev Sri Ravi Shankar, it just opened up this whole new world of how rich our culture is in terms of really moving us forward as a species, if you will, right? I'm talking about human evolution, the evolution of life, where there is a lot that we can learn from our culture, provided we get to learn from somebody who can teach us well, right? Or who can show us how to do it, basically. And that's to me uh, been the challenge, right? To find the right person to guide us on this path, who we call as our guru, basically. And
Yes.
and and so that has been a struggle because it's not like we have a like the Amazon marketplace, we have a marketplace of gurus. We have to, it's a search by itself, it's a beautiful process. But then these crises brings those questions, which leads you on the path to finding somebody or finding that path where you can evolve and grow yourself, develop yourself, right? And the whole practice of yoga, meditation, that whole tradition, right? I mean, it's just phenomenal. The more you get into it, the more you understand it, the more you invest in understanding it. There's so much there, and that you can you can take a lot from it, and there's so much for the world to gain from it, right? And it's wonderful to see yoga getting more embraced worldwide as a global phenomenon now. That's very, very wonderful to see, right? We celebrated the International Yoga Day recently, and very, very creative ways of people celebrated across the world. But there is so much there, right? I think when people think of yoga, they think of the physical, the hatha yoga, but there's so much. It's a whole system of living your life, how to live your life, and there's so much there that we can take away. And personally, I have taken away so much, not just things related to my health, mental and emotional well-being, but also related to my work. Actually, when it comes to innovation and creating insights, um, trying to change myself and the teams that I worked with. There is so much you can take away from them, and I think slowly the world is starting to realize that, right? And the yoga getting embraced is just a sign of that. I think in the years to come, I think it's going to get more and more embraced. People are going to understand it more and more, and crises like this will make people want to understand it more and more, right? Because they will start asking more fundamental questions about life. And I think that's a very good thing, because when you gain a certain depth, you look for answers beyond what you've been told or what you've studied. And yoga, meditation, the scriptures, and more importantly, a guru, the sort of the guru parampara, the guru tradition, has a lot to offer, and it's very, very beautiful. Actually, that's what I've learned personally, and um, I think it's important that we help other people understand that as well.
Wow, so beautiful. I'm actually short of words to continue this conversation forward. I'm also can recollect one fact that the Google Corporation itself has recently revealed that the amount of people who are meditating at 12 and 7:30, which is the time practiced by Art of Living in the last 90 days, has significantly gone up, and that's also one of the reasons why the Earth is healing. That it has a subconscious connection to how more people meditating and finding peace has an effect on the planet. And also the fact about being able to find these answers, being able to learn to adjust these kind of situations is essentially grounded by spirituality.
Yeah.
That brings me to something more interesting to ask is that
Mhm.
when we talk about individual transformation, where can somebody start with?
They can start with this crisis to begin with, right? Because seriously, I think life is asking you to ask questions. The question is whether you're taking that opportunity or not, right? Are you going to use this as an opportunity to reset the things that you've had so far? Not everything, but things that are not working for you, right? Everybody has something that they want to achieve or some results that they want, etc. You ask yourself, are you getting the results that you want out of you? Are you becoming the person who you want to be, right? Let's stick with personal transformation, right? So are you really becoming the person that you want to be, that you saw yourself be, I don't know, 20 years back? Is that the direction in which you are headed, right? If not, and I think this is a good time to ask, we are all in a lockdown situation and we have time on our hands, etc. It's a good time to ask that question and get started right now, right? Because for me personally, it was a car accident in the US when I was living in the US that really shook me up and made me ask this. That was another crisis that I went through, basically. That made me ask this question, right? What is life all about, basically, right? What's the point of it, basically, all? So, my point is, use this crisis as an opportunity to propel yourself forward by asking this question, right? First. Second is, like I said, this India is filled with this knowledge and this culture, right? There's so many schools, there's so many things. Now, the thing I would recommend is the art of living, basically, right? You can do the art of living program in the comfort of your home. Many teachers teach this program, right? And I must say that the 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 demand for this program has gone up manyfold, actually,
Yeah,
because people are in a lockdown. They're worried about their health, their immunity, their mental state of mind, etc. Or they've always thought about doing this, but now is the time to do it. Whatever the reasons are, I think use this opportunity to do it. Just see what it is first of all, right? So, and I think you never know where it will take you. But to me, that's a starting point, right? Is to sort of step back and descend from your head to the heart and ask yourself that honest question: Are you really getting to where you want to get to in life? Are you becoming the person that you want to become? If not, ask yourself, why is that? What can I do about it, right? Because if things are not working, whatever you've tried is not working, then it's time to shift. If it's working, good for you, right? It's good for you, you know. But if it's not, there are things you can do to change the path, change the trajectory, and it starts with practices like yoga, meditation, Sudarshan Kriya, and the Art of Living is conducting so many programs. And I've been recommending reaching out to my friends and colleagues saying, look, we're doing this because immunity and health and everybody's, it's on people's minds, and they're all sitting at home. They have some time, more time, right? They're not busy with other things, going out, etc. And a lot of people are signing up, actually.
yeah. I know. In fact, one of our recent art of living teacher was telling me that we are more busy during the lockdown, and our hands are full. We are unable to accept people on our courses. It's such
Yeah,
a nice phenomenon of change that people are able to make those nice beginnings. So for people watching us right now, if you want to make a new beginning with an art of living course, there's a number scrolling down right there. You can call that number and book your seat and make a new beginning with your life. You can hit a reset button and make a new beginning with an art of living course. So it please keep scrolling. Also, we'll open up the forum to questions. If you have questions, please send them across on the comments. We'll pick a few questions. So it's been a very very serious discussion so far. So let's flip to something more informal and something more personal. Which I wanted to do also. So we typically want to start. So since this is our first show, we probably wanted to keep away from this. But the culture of this show is to have a glass of juice, which the host will carry. I mean, obviously, if this was a in-person show, I would have served it. But so, if I would have asked you to keep, ask you which juice would you like in life in general? What is your juice? What is your version of a juice? What is your flavor?
I mean, like literally a
Yeah,
juice.
yeah, a juice
Okay.
like
Okay. I would say guava juice.
guava juice. Okay, interesting. Like for
Yeah.
example, if I had to pick, I'll pick a pineapple, a lemon, and a mint together. Like that, Goa, nice.
Yeah, I like lemon and now that you mention it, like lemon and ginger and mint. That combination I like too. Actually.
Yeah, especially ginger is all in all of demand these days because of its magical powers to boost immunity. In fact, has been the sales of ginger has almost gone up by over 370%. Is apparently what I have been told by one of my friends who's taking care of a vegetable business.
Yeah.
So
No,
moving, so
yeah. Go ahead,
So,
sir.
yeah, yeah. So moving on. So somebody asked me a question on the chat saying that how do we maintain a work-life balance while doing work from home? This is about hitting a reset button, obviously. So what do you have to say about this? How do we have a work-life balance while doing work from home?
Yeah, I think work life. First of all, I think I would challenge the notion of work life balance because that assumes that work and life are separate. Basically, there's work and then there's life. Basically, I think what I've and similarly, I don't this term that is sort of talked about is time management, right?
Yeah,
So it kind of goes together, right? I don't think you can do that. I think you have to reframe that whole thing to not work life balance but work life integration, number one,
mm,
right? So and energy management
yeah,
or attention management, right? Because when you uh, wherever you put attention, that's where you're spending your energy, right? So when we talk
right,
about time management, what we're really talking about is managing our energy so that we can do our best work and re-energize ourselves at the same time. So I see it as work-life integration, right? So work and life coming together. So now I realize that not everybody gets to do work that is in tune with our values and all that stuff, right? That's okay, but um, finding, even if it is work, it's finding something that is interesting amongst the mundane that you're doing is important because that energizes you. Because not all
yes,
work depletes your energy, right? Work that is boring, mundane, that you don't like is what depletes you. But work that is really uh, good, as in you love doing that kind of work, that actually energizes you. You don't feel like what is known as the state of flow, right? You lose track of time. You feel like, wow, this is great. I can keep on doing this, etc. So one way to think about it is integrating those two. But more importantly, especially if you're shifting from working in the office to working from home, like I said, having a routine is important, right? Because in
yeah,
the office, because of the nature in which the office setup is, you go to an office at a certain time, you have a lunch break, you have a tea break, whatever. So there's a certain routine that is set. Now you're struggling to find some other routine at home. So so you have to find those new habits, those new routines for you to start practicing at home, right?
mm,
Otherwise, wherever your attention goes, you will just go, basically, right? And and you might keep on working, uh, you know, for a very long time. That is also not very healthy. So trying to ritualize it, right? Just like your morning, you wake up and you brush your teeth, right? Like a ritual. So find new rituals in the everyday at home while you're working from home. That's an important thing to consider. The other one is to not look at work and life as separate, integrate them as much as you can, and work on energy, right? Um, like in the art of living, we say there are four sources of energy, right? If you want to manage your energy: food, your breath, your sleep, and calm and meditative state of mind. So if you feel low, ask yourself, are you eating good food at the right time, nutritious food? Are you sleeping well? Or you just working or watching Netflix, binge watching Netflix, right? And are you sleeping well? Are you eating well? And then pranayama, breathing, right? Exercise, breathing, all that increases your energy level. And finally, meditation and just or listening to some music, engaging with the family, kids, whatever, parents, talking to your friends, just managing your state of mind. All those things will help.
Right. Pretty interesting. So tell me, what have you learned in this lockdown? What are some of the, so one of our user is also very curious to know what are some of the new skills you learned this lockdown? People are not getting away with asking this question again and again, but you tell me, what have you learned? What are some new skills you learned?
What are some new skills I have learned? Like I said, I've learned how to wash the clothes in the washing machine. Okay, and
Okay.
and and people are wondering why is that a new skill? To me, it's just new. Basically, I've not been doing that, and I've realized the value of the help we've had at home. Right, our maids, who help us with these things. I mean, suddenly you don't have them, and you realize you got to do them. And my wife is actually much better at this than I am, but I had to learn this, right? How do you switch on the washing machine? How much, how do you load it up? All that stuff. So those are things. Washing vessels, especially vessels which are, where you kind of steam or boil the milk. Those vessels are hard to wash.
I
Right?
know.
I right, and drying your clothes and folding them up in record time, basically. Um, these
Okay.
are these are things I've learned. I wanted to learn cooking, but I've not learned a whole lot of cooking, I would say. Um,
Any dishes you
uh,
made and any reviews you received on that?
no, not much actually. I made
Okay.
rasam. I made rasam and potato curry one day. Actually, that
Wow.
was a
Well,
yeah, but
that's. Go
there's
ahead. I'm
nothing
very
to
sorry.
there's nothing to brag about there. I did it for 1 or 2 days, but I've not been very regular at it. One of the things I've learned to do is try to become more productive in spite of the
Okay.
distraction. That's something I'm learning to do. I would say I'm developing a couple of habits. Like I said, I'm learning this idea of how do I embrace habits more for productivity and things like that. That is something that those are the things I've been learning. I'm sorry I don't have anything exciting to share.
No, no, these are very, very exciting for this. Just to recollect something, you have just praised your dear wife on the on probably the international internet. So that's a big revelation. So of course, it's an opportunity to feel grateful to many interesting things we have received in life and so on. And another interesting question, which has come right from USA, it says that what would you recommend for kids and their mental state during this lockdown?
Yeah, I mean, so look, I think kids learn from us, right? Largely, I mean, depending on how old your kids are. If they are young, they typically learn from their parents. If they are in the teens, then it's a different thing, right? But largely, they learn from you, right? You're from how you deal with this crisis, largely. So if you're frustrated, if you're impatient, then obviously it kind of reflects. They will reflect that as well. But I think engaging them, so this practice that I've been talking about, it's a great thing to start kids on that very early, right? Whether it's yoga, meditation, Art of Living has programs for that as well. By the way, that has also seen a lot of demand, right? The children and teens program of the Art of Living, um, engaging in some activity, right? Engaging kids in the activity. For example, my daughter has started to paint more during the lockdown, right, Shreya? My second one, Shipra, is practicing dance more. I mean, she's always practiced, but then with the lockdown, the her Bharatanatyam teacher is not able to, guru is not able to come home and teach her, but she continues to practice basically. I'm teaching her how to develop a habit of strengthening her hands. apparently she has to get into some poses in Bharatanatyam which requires a lot of arm strength. So she's trying to practice daily some simple exercises to increase her arm strength. So I think things like this will help. Now, it is definitely a challenge to engage kids, but things like this will help. Getting them into a routine will help. Um, Creating rituals for them, engaging in some activity, very creative activity, painting, dancing, writing, uh, right? And Shreya is enrolled in a Coursera course on digital marketing as well. So something to keep yourself engaged, but largely it depends on how you conduct yourself at home, right? I think, like I said, a lot of the learning that kids learn are from their parents. So
Right.
I think
So
some things that I have observed in my kids here at home.
yeah, I mean, it's a very valid point because we tend to in this age and kids are teenagers or are slowly going into adults. It's when we are expected to be like a friend to your
Yep.
kid, and everything your kid picks up is essentially from a friend. So if you're a good friend, your kid is in the right place. And if you're interested about art of living child and teen programs, what Sanjay was mentioning, we have a ticker running down. You can call that number and enroll yourself on art of living child and teen program. So yeah, that's pretty interesting. So I've asked you because you also come from Chennai, from Tamil Nadu. In Tamil or in Chennai, there's a saying in Tamil Nadu saying "unave marundu," which is food is medicine, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So, what have you been eating in this lockdown? Another mandatory question I have for all the guests in.
Yeah, yeah, I mean, good you reminded me, right? One thing I've learned is staying off of sugar for the last 90 days, right?
Okay, I'm with you on that.
Uh, so Gurudev was mentioning that, um, if you eat sugar, 1 teaspoon of sugar, your immunity goes down by 50% for the next 2 hours or something like
Okay,
that. I mean,
okay.
that was an eye-opening thing, right? So for the last 90 days, I've not had white sugar, processed sugar in any
Wow.
form, right?
Okay.
So it's like if I feel like I need to eat something sweet, I ask for some jaggery or honey or something like that. So I'm a chocolate lover. I've been off of chocolate for the last 90 days as well, right? So and I'm hoping that I will continue that. So talking about food, that is one significant thing, and uh, trying to eat healthy, right? Eat on time, eat healthy, more vegetables, etc. I'm taking um, I'm taking this um, turmeric and pepper,
Yeah.
um, boost your immunity as well, right? So I'm taking that. I'm taking some Ayurvedic medicine for just keeping my like amla things like that, just for keeping my immunity levels up. And of course,
Yeah.
Tamil Nadu, you have Kabasura Kudi Neer, so
Yeah.
in plenty. So I take that 2 or 3 times a week as well as recommended uh, by the from what I'm hearing. So those are things. But food is an important thing, and just eat on time. So I've managed to finish my dinner most days at around between 6 and 7 in the evening.
Wow.
Um, that has helped my digestion a lot. I just feel much better. So just on time, good food in moderation, and stay off of white sugar. So that seems to be working for me so far.
Wow, that's so beautiful. When we're talking about making new beginnings, there are so many interesting things what we can do with our lifestyle. About staying off sugar, eating of moderation, going back to some of those healthy herbs, and also you've been talking about having adequate sleep or having adequate time for yourself in terms of practices. These are all new beginnings in terms of your individual
Absolutely.
lifestyle, and having new skills. Like, or it may be something as simple as washing the milk stains of a stubborn milk stains of a vessel can also be a skill to pick up during the lockdown.
Yeah.
And there's one more interesting question somebody was asking is while working from home, you have many distractions. How do you focus? That's a beginning I want to make, is what somebody is asking. What? That's the last question. So, what do you have to say for that?
No, it's a good question. I think, see, with all these digital devices and thanks to the internet, we are being by ourselves. There's a lot of distractions, understandably. I think, um, see, whenever we get distracted, I also feel we want to get distracted. In other words, distraction is a mechanism to stay away from something that's more boring. We don't want to do it, etc. Right? Um, so, our, so a lot of things are competing for our attention. There is work that you have to do, of course, or something important you have to do, and there are other things that are more entertaining, pleasurable, etc. Right? So, and it's a hard one. Right? Now, one thing that I do is not try to focus for the entire day. Trick my mind into thinking that I have to focus for only for the next 10 minutes.
Okay.
So what happens is when I focus like that for the next 10 minutes, when I get engaged in that activity,
Yeah.
it doesn't seem that bad. When I'm in the middle of an activity, let's say I'm preparing a report or I'm fixing a bug or whatever sitting at home, um, thinking about it makes me like overwhelmed. Oh, there's so much to do, or maybe I should do it later. Maybe I'll watch this episode of whatever in Netflix, you know. Um, uh, and then we get distracted, right? So one way to think about it is I'm going to just focus on this thing, most important thing, at least one thing I want to focus on today for 5 minutes or 10 minutes or
Hmm.
whatever your threshold is. The moment you start focusing on it and get into it, it doesn't seem so bad. What you end up doing is you will work on it for some more time,
Yeah.
right? So start in a very small place, right? Don't start big. Say I'm going to focus for the next 10 days only this and all that stuff. That's not going to work. Actually, usually doesn't work very well. And the other thing is shut down the triggers, right? The amount of windows you have open on your laptop. um, if you have 10 windows open on your laptop, 10 browser tabs open on your laptop, each one is calling your attention, right? The phone is also having all these apps with those red dots on top telling you have a notification, somebody on Facebook or LinkedIn or whatever. So staying away, so shutting down those things and doing this. Now, not trying to do this again, uh, you know, throughout, right? Trying to do it for a small period of time and gain the self confidence that you can do it. Just you get a glimpse of that confidence, then you can start building on it.
Okay. Very interesting. So I'll take one final question because this is very, very interesting. And somebody was saying that what is a suggested drink to boost morning immunity? Like something I can drink early in the morning to boost my immunity. Any health drink suggested? Somebody from USA is asking this question. Harinath Reddy.
Okay. Health drink in the morning. I don't know. So I typically drink milk mixed with turmeric and pepper on most days. So that's my morning drink, right? So I'm taking something hot in the morning. At the same time, I'm also, like I said, pepper and turmeric combination together. That's something you can do in the morning, or some juice. Again, juice without white sugar, right? If it's fresh juice, if
Yeah.
it's hard to make, then it's understandable. But that's what I think. I just even what I've heard is just a glass of hot water in the morning, right? Might also help, right? Again, I've
Yeah.
not tried it, but I've heard that one too. So
Uh, yeah. I think considering that turmeric with milk is sold as turmeric latte in parts of the world. I mean, it's such a powerful health drink. So very interesting. So I have a one last segment which will take you exactly 2 minutes, and then we can have the closing thoughts and put the curtains down to the most beautiful episode of our curtain raiser episode. So, what is the most used app on your phone during the lockdown?
hmm. Most used app on my phone. I have to probably check. Uh, I would say one is, of course, my mail,
Okay.
Outlook Mail or Gmail.
Okay.
That is one I can think of. The other one is LinkedIn.
Okay.
The other one is WhatsApp.
Okay. Right. So that's a very interesting thing because I wanted to see. I mean, so that essentially reaffirms your discipline that you've not gone to say Netflix or WhatsApp or YouTube. That essentially
No, I do.
really sets.
No, I do watch those things. But you asked me what's the most used. So um, I do watch some movies on Netflix or Hotstar. I do watch them, but
Which brings me to
the
my next
most
question. What is the thing, show, or movie you enjoyed the most during the lockdown?
um the okay. So hmm, what is a movie I enjoyed the most during the lockdown? Um,
Or a show, TV show, or a,
I watched this Malayalam movie called Virus, which is about the Nipah virus.
yeah, yeah.
The Nipah virus, how they tracked the thing. I think it was recommended by you, if I remember right. I don't know. So
Yes, it was
I
me.
yeah. So I think I really enjoyed that movie. It was very nice. It was there's no lot of it's very realistic and very authentic. I thought on how you sort of go about tracking down this virus. I mean, this was a Nipah virus, not the COVID-19 virus, but I
Yeah,
really like that movie.
yes. Yeah, I totally agree. It's nice to also see a film recommendation coming such a long way. So let's close down. So it's been a very, very fascinating conversation so far. We can go on and on. Only thing is that I'll be only making you late for bed and I getting late for dinner. And a lot more other people who are just watching probably probably also waiting to have their dinner. So it's been such a nice topic. There's so many new beginnings which I have learned personally. There's also a lot of new beginnings what people can pick from this show, and also perspectives to deal with hitting the reset in our lives. Any closing thoughts from your side?
No, I truly enjoyed this conversation, Surya. Thank you for the opportunity and congratulations once again. I'm looking forward to the next set of episodes and following the conversation. Seems to be a very interesting set of conversations that you're lining up. And thanks for all the questions, interesting questions. Like I said, it made me think, and I truly enjoyed the conversation. So thank you very much.
Yes, I'm truly honored to hear such a beautiful insight from you, testimonial from you that it has been a very a very brain picking session for you, somebody like you, and you really enjoyed answering the questions or being on the conversation. So now that I have set such a standard with you, I have to maintain it in the coming episodes, and I hope I will do that, and I hope all of the audience for watching us will continue to support us that way. We are partnering with other properties. Today we partnered with Art of Living OMR, so who has helped us deliver this show on this platform. So for the coming episodes, we'll be partnering with people. Thank you very much, Sanjay. Stay safe, stay happy, and we hope we catch up very soon post this lockdown and spend some time together. And thank you everybody for supporting us today for this Curtain Raiser episode of All Fruit Juice Season 1, Episode 1. So if you like us, like, share, subscribe, and I will be back soon with my new episode. Thank you again, Sanjay, and see you soon.
Thank
And
you.
good night.
Good
Bye
night.
bye.